Hey bag makers, I'm Sarah Lawson from Sew Sweetness. Thanks so much for joining me for Sewcial Sunday, my weekly sewing chat. Hey everybody, happy Sunday. Welcome to Sewcial Sunday. Tonight is our book club discussion for the book called The Quilter's Apprentice. You may notice my set behind me looks a little bit different. We started moving as many things over as possible to the new house, but we're still here in the old house filming for the time being. I see Arnetta's watching from Washington, D.C., Deidre from North Idaho. Hope everyone had a beautiful day today, and I'm really excited that my friend Tamara is here discussing The Quilter's Apprentice with me, and of course Tamara is joining me remotely from her house, so welcome Tamara. Nice to see you again. And so,
you haven't seen her yet.
Oh yeah, so happy that you were able to join me. We had so much fun with book club last year, and this is another fantastic book. So yeah, thank you again for joining me from your home.
Hi everybody.
So Tamara moved to her left.
All right, Danny's saying move to your left, just a hair, Tamara. There you go.
My left?
Perfect. Yes.
Better?
You're good?
Okay.
All right, so we're going to jump right in with the questions. I posted some of the questions on my original book club blog post and in the Facebook group, but I tried to keep them not too detailed, so they'd be fun questions. Everyone can answer them, and if you read the book, we invite you to jump in and answer the questions as well in the comments, whether you're watching on Facebook or YouTube. Danny's going to put a few of your comments up on the screen as we go through, and of course Tamara and I will be answering all of these questions live. So we're going to jump in with question number one. Question number one is partially a quote from the book. She couldn't see a quilt without thinking of her grandmother and without feeling a painful blend of love and loss. So what does sewing remind you of? So for me personally, I started sewing as an adult right before my kids were born. So William was born first. And so I was enjoying collecting sewing patterns, baby themed fabrics, and I thought I had a whole list of things that I was going to sew for William before he was born. So bibs, outfits, bedding, like a dust ruffle for the mattress in the crib, all these things, stuffed animals. Of course, I didn't get to sew half of the things on the list because one, I was tired, and then once he arrived, I had no time to do anything, but I had some lofty goals. I don't know what I was thinking, like how I would accomplish all these things, but that's basically what sewing reminds me of, dreaming of sewing things for my kids. And I did sew a small amount of things for them, but I've saved most of those things, and they're just fun to look back on. Actually, we are moving a lot of things to our new house, and I have a couple bins of their old baby clothes or a few things that I've made them, and it's just fun looking back on some of those things and thinking of the memories, and also thinking of actually making them with my own two hands. So it was kind of fun.
Well, you're not a lot different than most of us especially being a first-time mom. It's nothing can really prepare you, and you think you have all this time, and you're lucky if you could take a shower or brush your teeth when they first come home. I see sewing as a hobby, as creativity, a skill that's useful and fun. And now that I've been seriously sewing for about 4 years, started learning quilting and bag making, now garment sewing, I see it that for me, it has turned into this huge global community with the opportunity to be part of something much bigger. If anybody would have asked me 5 or 10 years ago, would I have sewing friends all over the world and jumping on planes and going to retreats where I don't know anybody, and that I have 2 sewing rooms full of every kind of supply and machine known to man, I probably would have laughed. But it's really turned into just a life changer for me all around, and it's nice to see that there's so many other people in all ages sewing.
Yeah, for sure. So the next question in the book, Bonnie said, most people stop by, hear the price of the quilt, then head straight to some discount store for a cheap knockoff. The woman sighed and shook her head. People who don't know quilts can't detect the obvious differences in quality of materials and workmanship. So has your work been undervalued before, Tamara?
We all know stories of either bags or quilts, because they all take a lot of time, that people that would pay, hundreds of dollars for a Louis Vuitton bag or a Coach bag, but then you make a really nice little sweetness bag and it's custom and you put your heart and soul in it. Oh, I'll give you $40 for that. And you sit and you look and you think, that wouldn't even cover the supplies, let alone your time. And that's one of the reasons I don't sew to get paid, because I'm slow as a sloth and I just enjoy the process and finding the right fabric for the right people. And most of the stuff I make, I give as gifts. But the only time I ever accepted an offer to be paid was a year ago Christmas. My hairdresser, who's been cutting my hair for like almost 30 years since my kids were really small, she asked me to make a Cubs bag from one of your bags. It was the Oreo bag. And I stole, I think, Christy of Rock Baby Scissors. I stole her idea to do the white leather flap with the red stitches to make it look like a baseball. And it came out really, really nice. And she gave it to her daughter-in-law for Christmas. And after Christmas, I said, how did she like it? And she was devastated because this girl is kind of hard to please. And she said she just kind of looked at it and was like, oh, okay, and just set it down. And Tom asked me, he's like, were you disappointed when you heard that? And I think for just a split second, I thought, oh, that didn't make me feel very good. But then I thought, you know what? She paid me what was appropriate for my time and all the supplies. And once it passes, and goes to the next person, it's theirs. So, but that's probably the only experience I've had. And you put your heart and soul into everything you make, and it's hard to not take it personal. But that's why I don't sew to make money, or I don't like the deadlines and having to put prices and haggling and all that. I just do it because I enjoy doing it.
Yeah, I noticed one of the comments flashed across the screen. I apologize.
$30.
I didn't see the name, but
oh my gosh.
Wow. I saw one, someone said, I tell people my sewn items are either priceless or free, and I guess I'm kind of maybe along the same lines. I like to give people occasionally gifts, but like only if I choose it, not if they ask me. And I haven't had the problem of people asking me to make bags and then offering a low price, but I have had people ask me to make things that are nothing along the lines of what I do. Like I think generally people know that I design patterns and videos for bags, or at least I say like, handbags or bags. My tattoo artist, when he was finishing up my tattoo, asked me to reupholster his leather. He had either a leather or fake leather chair. It was kind of similar to a dentist chair, like it moves back.
Barbershop chair,
Danny's
Miami style.
Okay, thank you. Danny's saying it's more similar to a barbershop chair, but it had a rip in it, and he wanted me to replace all the fabric. And I was just thinking in my head, like, how would I don't even know how I would go about that. I've never upholstered furniture before. This is a very unique item. How would I don't know how I would figure out the pattern pieces. I guess I would have to trace off, add seam allowances. I'm not even really sure. And so
I think it was kind of a compliment, because that seems like something that would be really difficult to do. I would have no clue how to reupholster anything. Maybe a cushion. That's about it. Right?
Question one, I thought was a good comment.
Hang on, let me just finish my thought about the chair that he asked me to do. I feel like I'm a people pleaser, and when people ask me something, like I really want to try to follow through. And I don't know how I considered it for, like, he was working on my arm for, I think it was 6 hours for each sitting. And so like I was turning it over in my mind, how am I going to do this? How much time is it going to take from, designing sewing patterns? And like I seriously considered it for like a split second, but then I thought, like, no, you have to say no, because this is ridiculous. You're going to spend so much time on this, and for really, I'm sure, no money. So
how did he react when you said you couldn't do it, or you didn't have time, or whatever?
I said which is true. I said I just didn't have the skills. I'd never done anything like that before, and I'd hate to mess it up. And I guess in that case, honesty was the best policy. But I wasn't trying to. Yeah, I was trying to get out of the hard work that I knew it would be, but I honestly did not know what I would do with it. So turned out okay. He didn't seem too offended. So Susan says, sewing is a lot like music. Your projects are timestamps that remind you of what was happening at the time you made it. Oh, I love that so much. I love that. Kathy says, I made a wallet completely on the embroidery machine that took 7 hours just to do the embroidery design, and a lady offered $7 for it.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
I don't think people know that don't sew. I mean, how many times, Sarah, we were talking about this before the show. I saw a hoodie or a t-shirt and I got to find it because I really want to get one. And it said, yes, I sew. No, I will not hem your pants. Because even my parents, my mom gives me a pair of Levi's from my dad, who's like going to be 85. And can you hem these? And I'm thinking, no, I can't. I don't know how to cut the denim and make it look. That's a whole different skill set. So yeah,
Yeah,
I
I'd
don't think
almost
people realize.
I'd almost rather suggest them just to buy a new pair of inexpensive jeans rather than like have, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Or the one pair I took, I'm gonna just take to the dry cleaners and have the people do the hemming and then just give them back and not tell them and just say, here you go. But then I'm afraid, oh no, then I'll be opening the door to multiple other projects. So yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Yeah. The next question is, if your points don't line up, I'll make you take them out. What do you think about Sylvia's precision? As a sewist, are you more like Sylvia or her sister Claudia? So I have to say, I'm personally like Claudia. I am not a perfect sewist, and I will rip a seam out if I'm working on a quilt and the blocks have to line up in order to make a continuous looking design. I'll redo those seams. But if I'm working on a bag and my stitches maybe look a little uneven or whatever the case may be, like, I'm fine for it not to be perfect. So I'm more like Claudia, and we were talking about this before the show, and I think maybe the reason that I'm less of a perfectionist when it comes to sewing, or at least sewing bags, is because as a pattern designer, I'm more interested in the process of the design, writing the instructions and all that, and so that's what I'm mainly after. And the finished bag, the byproduct of the instructions, is less of a obviously I'm happy with how the finished bag looks most of the time, but the instructions and that whole process is more of what makes me the happiest as far as sewing goes.
I was surprised when you told me that because I've seen some of your quilts, like the pictures, and they all look so perfect. And I have not mastered, I haven't really tried the foundation paper piecing. I know that makes it really look good, but I was kind of surprised. And I'm probably more like Sylvia because my free time is so rare. I work a lot of hours and I help take care of my elderly parents. So I don't have as much free time as I'd like. So I'm slow as a sloth and I don't care. I get there when I get there, but I don't make a lot of mistakes, which is nice. And then when I start making them, it's usually late at night and it's like, okay, Tamara, walk away from the sewing machine. You just keep making the same, you're done for the night. I'm probably more like Sylvia, and you said your process, your favorite part is all the designing. My favorite part is finding the perfect pattern, the perfect fabric for the person that I'm making it for. That is the joy part to me. And then when I get the process all done and the project's done, I'm like, woo, it's done. And I'm all excited to give it to the person. Whatever their reaction is fine. But that's kind of, and Sarah, you and I were talking before the show, how many times do we see nice items being posted? And the first thing we all do is say, well, here's my bag, or here's my quilt, or here's my garment. And then we point out, and here's all the mistakes. I wish we would stop, and I'm guilty of it too. I wish we would stop doing that. And somebody had just said, one of the comments was, we see our mistakes, more than everybody else does. But it's not about being perfect. It's about the process from the beginning to the end. So I'm probably more like Sylvia and you're more like Claudia.
Yeah, I'm wondering why we do that, why we post something and point out our mistakes. Like yesterday I posted on social media a picture of my studio that I was working on and the pictures that I put on the wall. And I followed it up with saying, home decorating is not my strong suit. Like, now thinking back on that, like, why did I have to say that? Couldn't I have just said, like, here's my studio
I
and
need help, or what's your suggestions? Yeah. I think we just need to slow down and pause and say, okay, what's a more positive way to present this than always going to the, I think women are just real hard. We're just real hard on ourselves.
Yeah. I see Denise says, I'm a newbie only sewing for a little over a year and a half, so all my stuff has mistakes, so I don't feel comfortable making for others, but I still want to.
Oh, just keep going, Denise. Usually the first project I make the first one and I usually keep it. And then you learn, and then the next one gets easier. But
Yeah.
stick with it. Oh my gosh, Jaded is so right. We are our own worst critics. Absolutely.
I think
Positively.
anyone looking at any of our projects would not notice any of the mistakes, and it's only you. It should just be your little secret, you know what I mean? Instead of,
And my friends that don't sew that I give all my projects to, they wouldn't have a clue if my seam was off or my point wasn't right, or they're just thrilled to get something that I make for them. So there you go.
All right, so the next question is, describe the relationship that develops between Sylvia and Sarah. What does each woman get out of this friendship? In what ways does Sylvia remind Sarah of her own grandmother? What did you think, Tamara?
I think both women seemed to really enjoy each other and what they had to offer. There was a huge age span. I think we kind of, when we were discussing before the show, we think Sylvia was probably in her maybe early to mid 70s, and Sarah was probably roughly around 25. Sylvia never had a daughter to become close to and to teach how to quilt. So I think she really enjoyed that piece that Sarah wanted to learn, and she wanted to teach her how to be a good quilter. And I think Sarah really missed her grandmother. And I think she would have really, really liked to be taught by her grandmother to learn how to quilt. But we were talking about that horrible, ugly scene in the book where her mother kind of put Sarah in the middle as a young girl and made her pick either a blanket or comforter that her mom had gotten versus the one that her grandmother had made. And I think she really liked the quilt that her grandmother made and wanted to keep that, but she still wanted to please her mom. So there was that whole problem with the relationship with her mom. But I think they both really valued each other and what they brought to the table. And, Sarah, you and I were joking about this before. I think with sewing, the age doesn't matter. We've got people that are, teenagers and kids in their 20s, all the way up to people in their 80s. I'm old enough to be your mother, but it doesn't matter. We have this common link and interest. But the first time you asked me to get together after we had met at your retreat, I looked at Tom and I'm like, why would she want to meet for dinner with me? And he was like, honey, you both are so passionate about sewing. Did you ever think that maybe she doesn't care how old you are? But it's been a couple years, so I'm over it. But
That's so funny. I see Susan saying each woman pushed the other out of her comfort zone and helped them to grow. I totally agree with that. And I sort of saw it as a wonderful relationship when Sarah and Matt took Sylvia to I think it was the fair, and I sort of saw them going. Yeah, I sort of saw them going as a family unit almost, and how everything developed. And at the end, they're setting up this new business with I guess I saw it as a retreat center.
And you're right, Diana. They both needed companionship. I think Sarah really missed having friends and moving to a new place, and I think Sylvia was really lonely coming back. So, yeah, see, Shelley said the same thing. Her sewing friends are all ages, too. It doesn't matter. Age is just a number.
Linda says, this relationship reminded me of my great aunt. She spent a lot of time teaching me sewing skills.
Oh, you're really lucky.
Yeah. Gretchen also, my sewing group is all ages too, and we all learn from each other. So I think it's wonderful to have a hobby where, like you said, age doesn't matter. People of all ages can participate, of all genders even can participate. Denise says, I owe it to Sarah for getting me into sewing. She was one of the first YouTube videos I used to learn because I am a very visual learner, and her step-by-step instruction has been a godsend for me. Thank you so much, Denise. Yeah, that's wonderful. And I don't know, I kind of think the Soul Sweetness group is almost like a micro example of this kind of relationship that Sylvia and Sarah said. We're our own online sewing group, and I've made so many friends and almost family members through group members throughout the years, and I just think it's wonderful and amazing.
Oh, that's a good comment, Carol, about the pain, because they definitely had issues with family and what they were going through. Yeah, really good point.
When Sylvia was showing Sarah the log cabin blocks, they talked about the Underground Railroad. Sarah asked, wouldn't bounty hunters see the quilts with the black center squares hanging on the line? Sylvia said, why? Who pays attention to women's work? Laundry hanging on the line? How does that make you feel? Sorry. So I'm kind of torn on this question. I've been reflecting in the last week a lot on quote unquote women's work, and since we've been home for over a month now, I've been cooking probably 2 meals a day. Oftentimes I'm making also a dessert. Before all this happened, I was a big fan. I really enjoyed going out to dinner. I liked going to different restaurants, trying new things. And I liked going out to eat as a family because it was almost like a captive audience. Everyone was there together, and I saw it sort of like a social, to me, I treated it like a social, I saw the social aspect of it. And so things have really been different lately. We're obviously not going out to eat. I'm cooking a lot, doing laundry, dishes, by choice. But I guess a lot of that is traditionally seen as women's work. I'm still working, but doing a lot of things around the house to take care of the house, certainly a lot more than I did previously. And I think the difference is maybe I'm doing these things to take care of my family and it was my choice. Maybe that's why I'm torn about it, because I don't know. I just have a feeling of pride taking care of my family, especially lately, because I feel like we all need each other with what's going on since we can't leave the house and all that. So I'm not exactly sure what I'm trying to say, but at least for the time being, I certainly don't mind my women's work, if you want to call it that.
I think it did come across as a negative thing, and I think that's why you and I both struggled with it. And, you know, being the daughter of a mom, me too, Kim, I do too. Me being the daughter of, my parents are in their 80s, so my mom was that, 50s, 60s housewife. And back then, it didn't surprise me when Sylvia said that she felt that way, because she was a young woman in her 20s and the 40s, and in her 30s and the 50s. And a woman's job was to be a stay-at-home mom. That wasn't a term back then. That was a woman's job, was to take care of her husband and her family and her home and look pretty when the husband came home and all that kind of stuff. And then, fast forward to 70 plus years to now, it's even harder because most of us women have to work. I mean, it's not by choice. And honestly, I think being a stay-at-home mom is the hardest job in the world ever. I was very fortunate to be able to work part-time when my kids were young, and when they got in high school, that's when I went back full-time. So I was able to be with them. But I wish women would build each other up instead of tearing each other down. We were discussing this before the show about the struggle with the stay-at-home moms. When you're raising your kids, they're kind of envious of the moms that are out working, and the moms that are out working, you're kind of envious of the stay-at-home moms. So whatever your situation is, you just have to make it work. And like you said, Sarah, your whole routine has obviously changed, drastically. But you're jumping in and you're adjusting, and that's great. And you're making it work. And all those desserts, that sounds really pretty awesome. I love to bake. I just don't do it as much as I'd like to.
Violet and I made an apple crisp the other day. The week before, we made a fruit crisp, like with an oatmeal, brown sugar kind of topping.
Sounds delicious.
What else? Banana bread. Danny loves banana bread. I made banana bread a couple times. Pound cake. So I don't make a dessert every day because we have to eat it first till I go on to the next one. But
the kids really seem to like the dessert thing. They like that.
Yeah, well, William's not so much into the fruit desserts, but like today I made chocolate cake and he was on board with that. So Amanda says, I think a lot of us are getting a glimpse into just how demanding it is to be just a stay-at-home mom.
Oh,
yeah.
Totally. I work from home remotely full time, and I work a lot of long hours. I cannot imagine having toddlers and grade school kids or bored high school or college kids underfoot trying to work. So kudos to all of you that are homeschooling and making this work. God love you, because it's got to be really difficult for sure. And you don't get a break. And now the summer's coming and they're home still. So
Right.
I get it. Yep. I totally agree. Hardest job in the world, being a stay-at-home mom.
Next question is, what is your favorite quote from the book? What did you think, Tamara?
I had a short one that I liked. It was summer, when the quilters were talking about the quilt camp that they had gone to. And Summer said, time, space, and lots of friends. That's what you need to be a successful quilter. And I think that goes, for pretty much any kind of sewing. But my favorite quote was toward the end of the book. Sarah was thinking about her quilting lesson while she was driving to work. And she said, she not just looking forward to it, she suddenly realized, but needing it. Tangled, anxious thoughts relaxed when she felt the fabric beneath her fingers and remembered she was creating something beautiful to delight the eyes as well as the heart, something strong enough to defeat the cold of a Pennsylvania, in our case, Sarah, Chicago, winter night. She could do these things. She, Sarah, had the power to do these things. And that really resonated with me because it reminded me of how much my sewing room is my happy place. I could get lost in there for days and not think about anything. And the time just flies by. So this really, you know, it fabric brings me joy, sewing brings me joy. It's my creative outlet. It's something that makes me feel good. So this quote really, when I read it, it was just like, whoa, that's me. She's thinking. So how
Yeah,
about yours?
it's a beautiful way to describe the fabric and working with it. I really liked that a lot. I had two quotes that I wrote down. The first one was, Sarah caught her breath and walked over for a better look. She unfolded the blanket with one hand and draped it over the sofa. Not a blanket, a quilt, she reminded herself. So this quote made me laugh a little bit, and it reminded me of one of my friends who's a well-known fabric and pattern designer, and she said that her father thought that she made blankets, and he used that term, my daughter makes blankets, and he just called it that. And so it made me laugh to think of my friend. And then my other quote that I liked from the book was, sometimes the most ordinary things are the ones we learn to miss the most. So I think we were talking before the show that certainly applies right now. All these ordinary
Sure
things
does.
that we don't have for the moment, but that we'll have sometime in the future, something to look forward to, I guess.
I think it really, we were talking before the show, it really helps this whole pandemic. I've been in healthcare for 40 years and I've never seen anything like it and hope I never see anything like it again. But I think it's really helped us to cherish not things as much as people and our health and how much we miss. I'm a very huggy kind of person, and that's been really hard for me to not be able to see people and hug people and go to my mom's and leave stuff on the porch and wave through the window. She's got this big sign in a thought bubble that says, we will get through this together. And I thought that was kind of cool that she did that. But I miss that. Oh, Claudia, I love you. That's so true. Claudia is one of my sewing friends. We just got together in March. That's my favorite time too, is with our Sew Sisters for sure.
What was I think? Oh, when you were saying about missing hugging, it was funny because in moving things, a lot of our belongings to the new house, it's crazy that most of the belongings ended up being mine. I don't know how I have so much stuff, but it really made me think, I don't know, about what's really important and like, do I really need all this stuff, and
Things
thinking about
are
it.
not
Yeah,
as
things.
important as people.
Right,
Mhm.
for sure. For sure. I guess
And
you
I have
don't.
one of my friends. She mentioned this a while back, and we were just talking about all the stuff, how we fill our houses. I have a 2-story, 2,800 square foot 4-bedroom house with a walk-up attic and a full unfinished basement, and every closet's full, every bedroom's full. I mean, and that would say, I just have one question. I want to know who brought all this stuff into my house. And it's so true. I mean, I've been here 10 years and I probably have 25 years of stuff in my basement and my attic and my closet. It's like, in this whole pandemic, it just really makes you think, do we really need all this stuff? So for sure. Oh, Colleen says her kids say mom makes blankets too.
The next question is, what kind of changes do Sarah and Sylvia go through by the end of the book? What have they discovered about friendship, acceptance, loyalty, and love? It was really heartwarming to see that Sarah actually, by choice, wanted to spend so much time with Sylvia. Like I mentioned previously, they went to the fair and the quilt show, and it was just really great that it started out. Sylvia was just so almost rude and almost dismissive towards Sarah, and by the end of the book, they're starting a business together, and it was like a full 180. Everything changed so much, and they needed each other equally, and it was really a really beautiful thing to read about, and a heartwarming story, I thought.
Yeah, Sarah helped Sylvia, I think, realize how much she really loved and missed Elm Creek Manor. I think Sylvia really learned a lot to let go of a lifetime of bad feelings about her sister Claudia and her sister Agnes. And she took accountability for her feelings being wrong and all those hurtful things, and that it resulted in really missing out on a lot of lost years without her family. And, you say it's never too late. Kind of, oh, good point, Terry. Best things in life aren't things. But Sylvia missed, I think, the friendships from the quilting, the groups and the guilds. And Sarah just seemed really mature for her age, I think, that she helped her realize how valuable and fun those friendships could be, how the Tangled Web quilters accepted her as a complete brand new quilter. And she saw the loyalty and the love they had for each other. And she really valued that. And I think she wanted that. It was important to her. And I think she thought it could be important to Sylvia too. So she kind of helped her. She wanted that for her as well. And we were talking about the age thing. It doesn't matter. I mean, they were probably 50 plus years in age difference, but it didn't matter. They both kind of wanted the same things at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Michelle says, I cried happy tears at the end of this book. Such a feel-good book.
We needed a happy ending story with how crazy things have been.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so my last, Susan says, I love that Sarah saw beneath Sylvia's hard exterior and powered through to break through that shell, recognizing the vulnerability there in Sylvia. Yeah, definitely. Ellen says, they have realized all of these relationships created mutual respect. Yeah, definitely. All right, so our very last question is, what did you enjoy about the book? Tamara, I'll let you go first on that one.
I always enjoy reading books about women and multiple generations of women, how their life experiences, how they look at and handle positive and negative, life events. And this book to me was a much needed, just like what the lady had just said. It was a much needed, it reminded me of like a fun chick movie. Where, all ages of women got together and they had different opinions about their common interests. Like they were having the conversation and the heated arguments that were fun about the hand stitching, which I could never do, versus the machine quilting. I thought that was kind of funny, but they still enjoyed and really looked forward to their meetings and always helped each other, working on everything. And it reminds me very much of a small group that I feel very honored to be part of. I have 6 girlfriends, and they're kind of all over, and we're all different ages, probably a 20 plus year span. I'm probably in the middle. And we have a common thread of crafting. We started doing cards, and now some of the girls knit. I have a few of my friends sewing now, so that's kind of fun. But we turned into so much more than just a crafting group. We have helped each other get through the last 15 years of all kinds of big life events, and we will continue to do that. So my group, Judy, Debbie, Terry, Diana, Annette, and Dana, I love you, and I wouldn't be who I am and where I am in my life without y'all. So thank you.
Oh, that's really great. I really enjoyed the flashbacks in the book when Sylvia was talking about her earlier life growing up and how her family was. I remember feeling really excited because I could tell when Sylvia was gearing up for a story, the the writing kind of changed, the quotes kind of disappeared, and I knew that there was going to be this really great story from Sylvia coming, and so every time it kind of shifted into Sylvia's stories, it made me really excited. And the whole part with Mrs. Emberley turning out to be Agnes, I thought that was...
I didn't see that comment at all. That was like, whoa.
Me neither. And it was so wonderful how they reconnected at the end, and they were almost, you know, the Tangled Web quilters were welcoming Sylvia into their group, and that they had that reconciliation. It was just, I really enjoyed that a lot. That was my favorite part of the book.
Oh, Vanessa had just said she didn't realize there were 20. I had no idea there were 20 either. And Sarah and I were laughing before the show. We were talking, and you know, with this pandemic, a lot of people couldn't get the book, and I couldn't get the book on my Libby or my Overdrive app, so I just went on Amazon and got the Kindle. But hey, Carol, but I was having all kinds of problems getting it to transfer over to my iPad or my cell phone, and the only place I could get it to work was on my laptop. And I laugh now because it felt like I was reading a book on a 55-inch TV screen, looking at it on my laptop. And then I'm all done. I have all the questions written out, all my answers written out, and I look over at the table next to my bed, and I realize I'm so darn organized, I didn't even know I bought this book a while ago. And guess what the first book is? It's first 3 books, and it was right here the whole time, and I didn't even realize it was here, and I thought, oh my gosh. Silly me.
So if you enjoyed the book that we just had the discussion for, The Quilter's Apprentice, like was mentioned, there's a whole series of books for you to enjoy. Ruthie says, read the newest book, The Christmas Boutique. It came out in 2019. Sylvia has changed a lot.
I haven't heard that one.
Liz says, books about women sharing and working together are interesting to me. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to starting with the next ones. I really love a series, especially with familiar characters. Jackie says, I loved how Sylvia taught Sarah how to piece by hand and finally allowed her to piece by sewing machine. I thoroughly enjoyed this book. Another great pick by Sarah. Thank you. Yeah, the whole part with the hand sewing was really, it kind of made me laugh inside, you know, how that she had to learn to make the quilt by hand sewing. That was just funny. I have an entire shelf of Elm Creek quilt books, and I'm slightly halfway through with them. So yeah, I have a lot more to go, but I'm looking forward to getting through.
I think somebody said there's 20. I have in this book, the next one's called Round Robin, and then book 3 is The Cross Country Quilter. So now I'm excited that I can read the next 2.
And not on your big screen, right?
Right, in the book.
Susan said, and Sylvia was never too old to start a new chapter in her life. How encouraging and inspirational for women of a certain age. Yeah, that's true.
Age is just a number, especially when you're my age.
All right, so I really appreciate everyone joining us for the live show and participating with answering the questions in the comments. But if you do watch the recording of the show later in the week, you're welcome to contribute in the comments as well, because it's always great to go back and see people's answers, even at later shows. I know people watch some of our shows, you know, a year or 2 back, and so people are always watching the shows. If you haven't seen them before, it's new to you, I suppose. So I wanted to announce the giveaway winner from last week, and then we have a new giveaway for tonight. So last week's winner was Deborah Peterkin was last week's winner for the giveaway, and I also have a second name that I've written down, and that is for the Day Trip Sew Along, the final week winner, and that's Teresa Chausa. I'm probably pronouncing that incorrectly. So congratulations to both of you. Please email me and I'll get you set up with your prizes. I wanted to thank Tamara so much for joining me for tonight's book club and all the book club discussions that we did last year. It's so much fun.
It's always fun, Sarah.
We get along so great, and I really love that we have this to do together. So thank you so much for that.
Me too.
That being said, the giveaway for tonight is a $40 gift certificate to my website. And my giveaway question is sort of an alternate question, so I didn't want to leave people out that hadn't read the book. So if you did read The Quilter's Apprentice, let me know your favorite character from that book. If you did not read The Quilter's Apprentice, you can let me know your favorite character from whatever book, your favorite book, whatever your favorite character is, let me know in the comments. I will draw a randomly drawn winner at the end of the day this Saturday and announce that winner on next Sunday's show. So thank you to Tamara. Hopefully we'll do another book club discussion sometime soon. We have nothing scheduled, but not leaving that totally. I'm sure we'll be doing another one in the future. I hope everyone has a great week. Get some sewing done. Happy sewing. Bye, everybody. Bye, Tamara.
Bye. Thank you.